cactus and succulent growers, it's Lynn, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about the cacti and succulents that need winter warmth, and the ones that are not cold hardy and do need to be brought indoors for the winter months. And this was actually a video request from my wonderful friend Danny Rose. So hi Danny. Danny wanted to know what cacti and succulents need winter warmth, because it's coming up to that time of year where it's still sort of warm enough here in Ireland at the moment, but it won't be long before the cold winter sort of comes and we have to make sure all our plants are protected. So I thought this would be a bit of a video to give those of you a bit of an idea, if you're growing cacti and succulents, which ones do need to come indoors and what minimum temperatures they need. Now, I have made numerous videos on this YouTube channel on how to overwinter cacti and succulents, including when I bring my own, the cacti that I have to bring in and the succulents I have to bring in for winter that are not cold hardy. And if check out my channel on them, there'll be many videos I've done on there, and I mention the minimum temperatures for each of them. But I just want to start off by saying the majority of all these cacti and succulents that you see here do stay out in the polytunnel for the winter months, but I keep the polytunnel at a minimum winter temperature at 5 Celsius, which is about 41 degrees Fahrenheit. And I do keep them all bone dry without any water at all until the following spring, usually around the April time. The only ones I'll water will be some of my epiphytic cacti, such as the Ripsalis and the Slumbergeras, the Christmas and Thanksgiving cacti. But this year is going to be very different because we're going to be having a new clear polytunnel. So this is all going to be coming out anyway and putting them all back in again. But anyway, it's a long story. But I would normally keep these all overwintered in here, and the reason why I have them at 5 Celsius is because that's sort of a good all-round minimum winter temperature for the majority of cacti. Ideally, if you can, the majority of cacti like about 7 to 8 Celsius, sort of about 45 degree Fahrenheit, because a little bit lower than that they can be a little bit prone to getting a few these little scabbiness and scarring from the cold, such as what's happened to this one here. But they won't die as long as they're kept dry. I can't afford to keep the polytunnel at 8 Celsius because we'd have a huge electric bill, so that's why I keep it a little bit cool. But I keep the plants extra dry, and I find that does the job. Helps them to get through the winter. So then, saying that, the majority of my cacti and succulents will stay outside in the polytunnel at a minimum of 5C. There are some cacti and succulents that do not tolerate that temperature. They need winter warmth, and I'm going to talk about them here. But first of all, how do I keep this polytunnel at 5 Celsius when the winter here in Ireland and UK can certainly drop to below freezing many times? Last winter was extremely cold. Then I have a little heater here, BioGreen Phoenix, absolutely fab, and I have it where you can set it at thermostat at 5 Celsius, and then it means that if the temperature in the polytunnel drops to 5C or below, it kicks on, and then the heater kicks on, and then it kicks off again when it reaches a temperature of about 6-7C and then drops down to 5C. It's absolutely fantastic, and sort of much more economical on a thermostat than if I had a heater continually running all the time. So then the first cacti I'm going to talk about that does need winter warmth would be the Mellow Cacti. And this is one that I recently got also from Danny. Danny very kindly gave me one of his Mellow Cacti that's lost its roots, and I'm trying to reroot it again. I've got it in perlite and keeping the soil medium moist. But this one is one that does have to come in. If you have Mellow Cacti, they are tropical cacti, and they do need a minimum winter temperature of 10 Celsius, which is about 50 degree Fahrenheit. Ideally, they like around 15 degrees Celsius, which is 60 degree Fahrenheit. And mellow cacti are also cacti that don't like to go totally dry through the winter months, unlike the other types of cacti, the desert cacti. This one does like to have a wee bit of watering about every 6 weeks. So first one will be Mellow Cactus. That has to come in for the winter. The next one will be Matukana. And this one here is also one that we got from Danny recently, Matukana auriflora, and this is a Matukana pulsey. And the Matukana pulsey is a little bit more cold hardier, but I'm still going to be bringing this in this winter along with this one because Matukana are also more tropical. They do like to be kept dry over the winter months and cool, but ideally no lower than 10 Celsius, 50 degree Fahrenheit. So if you have Matukana in your collection, then do bring it in because it's going to need winter warmth. The next one will be Urbelmania. Now this is my Urbelmania pectinifera. I've had for quite a few years. Absolutely awesome cactus, but it's not cold hardy, so this is one I also overwinter in the window in my grow room. It's also tropical as well, likes a minimum again of 10 Celsius, 50 degree Fahrenheit, and this is also one I will lightly water probably about every 6 weeks in the winter because it doesn't like to go too long without watering, but I do keep it mostly dry because it still does like a bit of a winter dormancy. But I will spray it with water just lightly, and the water will drip down then into the bottom to stop it from going too long without water. But again, that's not a cold hardy one at all. Now the Opuntias, the prickly pears, the majority of them are very cold hardy, and even the ones that are not can often survive colder temperatures, a minimum of 5°C, as long as they're kept dry. Many such as Opuntia humifusa, such as this one, can take many degrees of frost and snow. They're very cold hardy. But if you have certain Opuntias, such as the ones from the Galapagos Islands, we've got a few of them in our white polytunnel, then they do need a minimum winter temperature of 10 Celsius, 50 Fahrenheit. The Opuntias from the Galapagos Islands will be coming in, so that because they are more tropical. Now, these are kind of our Opuntia consilias. Opuntia rubescens, commonly known as the Roadkill Cactus. This is one Opuntia that is not cold hardy. As I mentioned, the majority of them are cold hardy, but this is one that does need more winter warmth. Again, minimum 10°C, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Now the next one will be Hylocereus, commonly known as the Dragonfruit Cacti, which are these here. And these are very cold sensitive. Anything, even 7 or 8 Celsius, these will turn to mush very fast. They'll just collapse. And you do have to be careful because a lot of Gymnoclisium myhavinci, commonly known as the moon cactus, the red cap that has the red cap, or the dark purple caps, they're often grafted on these Hylocereus rootstock. So if you have a Gymnoclisium red cap and you notice you have this type of roots stock, grafting stock, then do bring it indoors for the winter and keep it above 10 Celsius, 50 degree Fahrenheit, because otherwise the Hylocereus rootstock will collapse and you'll lose the whole plant because it can't be grown without a graft. So Hylocereus dragon fruits, they're very, very tropical, and again, minimum winter temperature of 10°C, 50 degree Fahrenheit. Now the other type of cacti, and this way can be a bit confusing because certain cacti in the same genus can take very cold winter temperatures if they're kept dry, while others can't. So it really does help if you know what type, ideally what type of cactus you have in the genus. For example, you have a mammillaria, but if you know the exact type of mammillaria, it can help. In general, the majority of mammillarias, the majority of Gymnoclisiums, ferrocacti and the likes can all pretty much take 5 Celsius, so that's the bare minimum. But do just be very careful what type of cactus you have in the genus. If you do know the ID, do check its minimum temperature out because it can vary. Not one size fits all. A good all-rounder would be Echinopsis. I mean, pretty much every Echinopsis species in the genus are very cold hardy. Possibly the one that would be a little bit more sensitive will be the Echinopsis subdenudata. They can get little sort of brown spotting and scabbing if they're kept a little bit cold, but I find mine do absolutely fine if I keep them dry at 5 Celsius. No trouble at all. They're very, very cold hardy plants. Magnificus. Now I overwinter mine in the polytunnel, as I say, also at 5C, 41 Fahrenheit, and I never have any problems with them. They overwinter perfect. I keep them all dry, and they're beautiful plants. But I do know some growers that can sometimes have problems with this particular Perodia if they overwinter it in their greenhouses or polytunnels, and just at 5C. They'll sometimes find they'll get spotting and marking on the actual plant itself. I've not encountered this, but if you've recently bought one of these, then maybe that little bit wee more cold sensitive if they're not used to it. So maybe if you might want to bring it in just to be on the safe side. But as I say, no problem with overwintering mine at this temperature. I just want to mention as well, I'm in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, and the humidity is a nightmare in winter time, and I'm sure it's the same for many people as well in the UK and other parts of Europe. And many of these cacti, if you have an arid environment and it's cold where you live but it's dry air, a lot of these cacti can even take much colder than 5C. They can even take freezing temperatures if the air is dry, but I have to keep mine at a minimum of 5C because, as I mentioned, the humidity is very high in Ireland, and I have to go maybe that little bit more warmer with the minimum temperatures than I would if I was living in a much more dry, arid climate. Now, Ripsalis, there's many Ripsalis that are very cold hardy, and some that do need winter warmth. Now, usually in general, the more thinner stemmed leaved, or if you call them leaves, they're modified leaves, the thinner the leaves, the more cold hardy they are. And these are some of my cold hardy Ripsalis, Ripsalis penduliflora. And there's many other types, Ripsalis bachyphera, Ripsalis pilocarpa, such as down there, and they are cold hardy. Again, 5 Celsius, 41 Fahrenheit is fine for overwintering Ripsalis. I do have to give them a little bit of watering during the winter months, no problem, but they're cold hardy. But there are some Ripsalis that are more prone to getting leaf damage at a low temperature, and they need a minimum winter temperature of 10C, 50 Fahrenheit. And I've got them in my office at the moment. I'm just going to go upstairs and show you what they are in my office, so you know the difference in how they look. Usually the bigger leaved varieties, the wider leaved and larger leaved varieties of Ripsalis are not as cold hardy, and they do need to be overwintered indoors, as these thinner ones can be overwintered with a cooler temperature. So I'm just going to show you the ones upstairs now. Now here I am in my office, and these are the larger leaved Ripsalis that are not as cold hardy as the thinner leaved Ripsalis. This is a Ripsalis crispata, and you can see that the wider leaves on here, they have a habit of getting sort of brown spots and leaf drop if they're kept colder than 10 Celsius. That's why I have these indoors. And a Ripsalis paradoxa is another one that does like to ideally be kept above 10C, 50 Fahrenheit. This is another one of my Ripsalis paradoxas here. I'm commonly known as the mistletoe Ripsalis because of its amazing little arrangement with how it hangs, almost resembling sort of mistletoe a bit. And the other type of Ripsalis that's larger leaved as well, such as this one here and that one there. So the larger leaved Ripsalis definitely do need a minimum winter temperature of 10C, 50 Fahrenheit, and the thinner ones, such as this one here, and as the ones I mentioned in the polytunnel, can definitely cope at 5 Celsius. Now, Epiphylums in general, they're also very cold hardy. That's my Epiphylum Madeline there, and Epiphylum Pegasus. I've had to bring them in because it's been sort of very windy here the past while, and this is Epiphylum Pegasus, lovely sort of red leaves because it's had plenty of sun this summer. But they're very cold hardy, my Epiphylum Anguliga there. As long as you can keep them sort of fairly dry over the winter, a little bit of watering every few weeks to stop the leaves shrivelling back, they can take very low temperatures, as I say, minimum of 5C, 41 Fahrenheit. I keep these in the polytunnel over the winter months But there's a couple of epiphyllums, such as Epiphylum guatemalense, that is a little bit more cold sensitive. It won't necessarily die at 5 Celsius, but you will find a lot of leaf damage. You might get little black or brown spots appearing on the leaves. So if you have the Epiphylum guatemalense, and this is mine here in my grow room, lovely, beautiful sort of wavy leaves variety, it is one that does need more winter warmth. So again, that particular epiphyllum, do keep at a minimum of 10°C, 50°F. But all the other epiphyllums, very cold hardy, and do well in greenhouses, even in here in Ireland and the UK. Now here I am in my little white greenhouse where I have a lot of my columnar cacti, and there's some columnar cacti that are not cold hardy either. Now the majority of my columnar cacti here, the Trichocereus, such as this Trichocereus scopolycola here, and my Trichocereus grandiflorus, they're very cold hardy, and they can definitely take 5°C, 41 Fahrenheit in winter. And I move all of these back into the big polytunnel to overwinter in the winter months. But there's many columnar cacti that are sensitive to the cold and will literally collapse if they are given cold winters. And an example would be the Pilosocereus, commonly known as the blue torch cactus, which is one of mine here, Pilosocereus azareus, another one there, lovely blue coloration to it. But they are very cold sensitive, and they will just collapse and turn to mush very quickly if they're kept cold in winter time. And here's another one of my Pilosocereus pachyclaudus here, and this is also one that has to have minimum winter temperatures of 10°C, 50 Fahrenheit, because they're just not cold sensitive in any way. And this is a very, very common cactus in people's collections. I'm sure that everybody who grows cactus would have at least one Pilosocereus in their collection, so do get a good look at this. It's always a blue coloured one, and one that does definitely need a very, very minimum temperature of 10°C, 50 Fahrenheit, one that needs to come in. Another columnar one as well will be that's getting very common now in collections, will be the Cereus Yamakaru, commonly known as the cuddly cactus. And this is also one that needs winter warmth as well. It probably could take about 7-8°C if it's kept dry, but to be on the safe side, keep it above 10°C, 50 Fahrenheit, because this has a habit of getting can get patches of purple and brown markings on it if it goes too cold. It may not necessarily die or collapse like a Pilosocereus, but they are cold sensitive and they're getting their lovely stems damaged. So do keep them above, or keep them at a minimum, I should say, of 10°C, 50 Fahrenheit. Now here I am outside in the yard, and these are our Preschio cacti. A few different varieties there. This is Preschio godseffiana, has gorgeous sort of yellowy golden leaves, and these leaves sort of go a little bit greener when we bring it into the house over the winter, but it goes a lovely sort of golden colour when it's outside during the summer. But this one is not cold hardy, and the Preschio, the leafy cacti, a cacti that do need a minimum winter temperature of 10 Celsius, 50°F. The odd sort of chilly night won't hurt them. These are out here in the yard, and it sort of dropped to 7 Celsius the other night. But obviously continued cold temperatures these plants don't like, so minimum of 10 Celsius, 50°F for Preschio. It's the same with Schlumbergera Christmas and Thanksgiving cacti as well. They're pretty cold hardy, in fact. I keep these out in the polytunnel, flower beautiful for me. Do have to give them a little bit of watering, but they can take a minimum of 5°C, 41°F too, no problems there. They're very cold hardy, great for porches or places where you don't have much heat and you want to have them growing. Beautiful. So then what succulents do need to come in for the winter, need more winter warmth? Now the majority of my succulents, again, I have a mixture of many different types, lots of echeverias, graptopetalums, aloes, agaves that are very cold hardy, and gasterias, tons of them, absolutely tons, and string of pearls. I just leave them out here in the polytunnel at 5C, and for me anyway, they do very well. Never had a problem. So again, I keep the majority of them dry. I do still have to water some of my aloes because they're winter flowering. They've got more blooms coming up on them now, and just a light bit of water, but they did absolutely fine over the winter. And 5 Celsius, 41 Fahrenheit, majority of succulents seem to come through absolutely fine if you can keep them more on the dry side. However, saying that, there's euphorbias that are succulents, and they are not not cold hardy. They absolutely need winter warmth, and these are some of my euphorbias here. I've got many different types, and they will literally collapse if you don't give them heat during the winter months. They need a minimum winter temperature of 10 Celsius, 50 Fahrenheit. So all the euphorbias, many different types here, have to come in. These will all be coming in probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Weather's been quite okay here for the temperatures here in Northern Ireland for September, and obviously they're going to be coming in anyway when we collapse this polytunnel to get our new one. Minimum of 50 Fahrenheit, 10 Celsius for euphorbias. And euphorbias can look very cactus-like, and it's easy to think, oh, it's a cactus, and then you don't worry about the cold because you think it's going to be cold hardy. But euphorbias have thorns. They don't have spines like cacti do, and cacti have areoles, which are these little cushions here where the spines come out of. Anyway, that's a whole new topic, and I've talked about that before in many videos. So the only euphorbia that I actually keep out here in the polytunnel all winter, and it's the only euphorbia, is my Euphorbia horrida. And the reason for that is because it just seems to be the only really cold hardy one I've experienced. And I used to bring this into the house before, but my friend Michael, who has amazing collection of cacti and succulents, keeps his Euphorbia horrida in his unheated greenhouse in Dublin, and he said it's even dropped below freezing in his greenhouse, and he's never lost his horrida. It seems to be more cold hardy, so that's why I leave this one out, and it does absolutely brilliant out here. Never had a problem. But as I say, all my other euphorbias bring in. So if you have euphorbias, do bring them in, and a minimum winter temperature of 50 Fahrenheit, 10 Celsius. And for more tips on how to overwinter your cacti and succulents, do check out the videos I'm going to be linking down below in the video description. I've made a video on how to overwinter cacti and succulents, also on how to prepare your cactus for winter dormancy. So check that video out as well. It's one I made last year, and I'll link any more videos that's sort of winter related as well down below in the video description. So thanks so much for watching, everyone. Before you go, do leave a comment in the comments down below, even if it's a heart or a smiley face, because every comment really helps the algorithm. And thank you, Danny Rose, for the video request. I'm going to be making more videos on winter care coming up soon. And stay tuned for part 2 of the Q&A for the subscribers questions video coming up at the weekend also. If you haven't done already, don't forget to subscribe. Do click the notification bell. You can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook at Desert Plants of Avalon. And for more growing tips, do check out my website, desertplantsofavalon.com. I want to wish you all a fantastic cactus and succulent powered day.